Top senators will meet today looking to broker a bipartisan deal to hold Saudi Arabia's crown prince accountable for the murder of journalist Jamal Khashoggi. This comes as President Trump is still siding with the embattled crown prince over his own CIA's assessment. Joining me now, independent Senator Angus King, who of course serves on the Senate Intelligence Committee. Sir, good to have you with us this morning.
Good morning.
I know you didn't attend that briefing with CIA Director Haspel, but we certainly heard a lot from your colleagues who were briefed. You were briefed, obviously, before Thanksgiving. I just want to play a little bit of what they had to say, specifically Senators Graham and Corker. Take a listen.
You have to be willfully blind not to come to the conclusion that this was orchestrated and organized by people under the command of MBS, and that he was intricately involved in the demise of Mr. Khashoggi.
If he was in front of a jury, he would be convicted in 30 minutes.
Strong reactions there. You've said in the past that you believe the administration gave MBS a pass here. Where do you stand today?
Well, I saw Bob Corker yesterday afternoon and said, Bob, I disagree with your comments. I think it would only take the jury 20 minutes to convict. It's very clear. And this isn't based upon classified information. I did have the classified briefing from the CIA before Thanksgiving, as you mentioned, but not based upon that, just based upon public source information and what we know about how Saudi Arabia is being run these days. There's no question that the Crown Prince was involved. This was not some kind of rogue operation. And the administration kept saying there isn't a smoking gun, there's no direct evidence. I heard that a dozen times last week. That's not required. If there had to be a smoking gun, 3/4 of the people in prison in the United States today would be walking free. You make these decisions on the totality of the evidence. And in this case, I don't see how there can be any doubt that MBS was directly involved. We're not going to find an email saying, don't forget the bone saw, but everything else points in that direction.
So with everything pointing in that direction, in your estimation, there is this bipartisan group, as we mentioned, of senators meeting today. You're trying to put together a deal here to punish the Saudis, and I think we can put up some of what you're looking towards. Obviously, halting sales of arms. We're talking about limiting involvement in Yemen. The issue, though, being that even if this gets done, we know the House has said they can't really do anything right now. Lame duck session. The White House is not going to support it. So what can be done that will really send a clear message to the Saudis that you believe will make a real difference?
Well, I think the vote of the Senate last week, getting 63 votes on the intervention in Yemen issue, was a clear message. I think this resolution that's circulating now is a clear message, and people's minds can change. I mean, the Senate would have been reluctant to do this 2 or 3 weeks ago, but now that the information is coming out, and I think members of the House may take a look at this and say, we just can't sit still for this. I think the administration got out early, and too early, frankly, on this issue. And the basic point here is you can rebuke an ally for improper action without breaching the entire relationship. And I think that the administration is presenting it as either or. Either we're an ally of Saudi Arabia or we respond to this murder. I don't think it's that clear, and I think there is an opportunity to do something serious. And I think that message is being received in Saudi Arabia right now, in spite of whether it passes or the president signs it. I think they have to be getting the message.
I also want to get your take on a story that is developing at this point. We're learning about the CFO of Huawei who was picked up, obviously, while traveling through Canada. The market's already volatile, as we know. We're watching what's happening overnight here, and especially in advance of markets opening here stateside. First, I'm just curious, your reaction here. Again, we're still waiting to hear on the exact charges.
Well, I don't know what the exact charges are, and so I really can't comment on that, but I think there are a couple of things to say. One is this person who's being detained is not only a high-ranking official, but I believe is related to the founder or is somehow deeply involved in a family connection to this company. Secondly, this is a company in China that makes essentially network equipment, among other things. And there's a grave concern in this country and Europe and other countries that embedding Huawei equipment in our next generation of the 5G generation of cellular, for example, creates a really serious national security risk. I don't think this detention has anything to do with that, but that's an overarching issue in the background here that is one that I believe we really have to take serious.
And you are correct. There is a connection there because the CFO is, in fact, the daughter of the founder of Huawei.
Right.
Are you concerned at all about potential repercussions in China for U.S. business people?
Well, who knows? I think that's certainly a possibility. We're dealing with a regime that has absolute power over all levers of state power, and they may feel that they have to respond in some way. Again, I think it's important to understand, which frankly I haven't heard yet, exactly why this action is being taken. I don't think it's to do with the national security issue that I just mentioned. I think it's something to do, for example, with Huawei breaching sanctions and going around sanctions on Iran, for example. So I think we need to find out exactly what the charge is, but clearly some kind of response in China is absolutely possible. We certainly saw that in the tariff situation. We put on tariffs. They immediately put on tariffs in the opposite direction, one of which was on lobsters, by the way, which is a real problem in my state. So there's going to be some response in China, I suspect.
There is also, again, a lot to get to this morning, Senator, so we're sort of playing a quick lightning round here. But in terms of this filing involving Michael Flynn, as we know, a good amount of it was redacted. But what we were able to read, of course, talked about the substantial help and on more than one investigation. What is your take on what we have learned in that filing?
Well, you answered your own question in your emphasis on the word substantial. In prosecutor speak, that means really significant, something that is very useful to the investigation, not just a minor add-on. And I think one way to characterize this is, there's a lot of talk about the presidential pardon and whether there would be a pardon. This is a signal from Robert Mueller that if you cooperate fully, in effect, it's a pardon. They recommended no jail time for a serious offense of lying to the FBI. So this is a signal that if you cooperate, you will be treated fairly by the special counsel. And I've looked at those charging, the memo that was submitted. As you say, I would characterize it as more Swiss than cheese. There's so much redaction. It's very hard to tell. There's some major issues, it appears, that are redacted. But the key word is substantial, and it looks like here's somebody that was very much inside the Trump campaign, during the transition, that had, we know, connections or communications with Russia. And the fact that he cooperated fully, I think, is very significant.
And again, your estimation that this is also a signal to any potential witnesses. Senator Angus King, appreciate your time as always. Thank you.
Thank you. Pleasure to be with you.